Welcome back, guys. As promised, we're stepping into this video where part 1 left off. If you're here and feel like you might be missing something, head on over to part 1. I'll link it here. Okay, right back into the swatching. The last color we looked at was Fig Green, and we'll continue with Gallo's assortment of greens. Sap Green is the first on our list in this assortment. It's made of PY83, PG36, PV19, and PR101. It is an 8 on that blue wool light fastness scale, is medium staining, non-granulating, and semi-opaque. I really enjoy this sap green mix. I enjoy how the colors separate out just a little bit when it dries. I find that it gives more visual interest. Up next is a rather interesting color, Chromium Oxide in PG17. It's an 8 in light fastness, medium staining, non-granulating, and opaque. Kind of a fun tidbit about chromium oxide, it's used a lot in the formation of plastics because it's naturally heat resistant. Next up is one of my favorite greens that Gallo has to offer. This is Olive Green Deep. It's made of PY154, PY110, and PB29. It's an 8 in light fastness, medium staining, non-granulating, and semi-opaque. You'll probably notice that as we go along, I usually like the deeper, richer version of colors. This one's just a little bit more inky, and I do think that it really matches up nicely with some of the greens that occur naturally, such as in landscapes or animals or other natural subjects. This next one is one of Gallo's more naturally derived greens. This is Buckthorn Green. It is made of naturally occurring buckthorn berries and weld. It is an 8 in light fastness, non-staining, non-granulating, and transparent. Things like this interest me an awful lot because I'm assuming that at different points of ripeness in the berries you might be able to achieve different colors in your pigment. If anyone has any more information or knowledge about those types of things, let me know down in the comments. Next on the list is Green Earth Warm. It is also made of PG23, is an 8 in light fastness, non-staining, non-granulating, and semi-transparent. And right after our warm green earth, we have our French ochre Sahara. This one, like a few others on this sheet, are made of PY43. This one in particular is an 8 in light fastness, medium staining, non-granulating, and semi-transparent. One of the outliers that we have here that doesn't belong to that PY43 family is Verdasio. It's made of PBR7 and PBK11. This one I would say shows up a bit more green in real life than it does on camera. I do think it's a really nice color. And it is one of the ones that I ended up buying a half pan of. Green Umber is made of PBR8. Is a little bit less green than that Verdasio. It is an 8 in light fastness, non-staining, granulating, and semi-opaque. Stepping back into our series of PY43, this next one coming up is Jarasite. It is an 8 in light fastness, medium staining, non-granulating, and transparent. The The next version of PY43 we have is traditional gold ochre. This one is certainly a bit more orange in hue, is an 8 in light fastness, medium staining, non-granulating, and transparent. The next one, and possibly my favorite version of PY43, is Moroccan ochre. It is an 8 in light fastness, medium staining, non-granulating, and semi-opaque. This one definitely reminds me a little bit of a Quinacridone gold, but is a little bit more muted. I typically wouldn't recommend people buy bunches of versions of the same pigment, but I do think that each of these definitely serves its own purpose and is just different enough to be marketed that way. The next one here is raw sienna, still on PY43. It's an 8 in light fastness, medium staining, non-granulating, and semi-transparent. Last but not least, we have raw sienna Badia PY43. It's an 8 in light fastness, medium staining, non-granulating, and semi-transparent. This version of Quinacridone Gold, such as a few other popular brands, is made of PY150 and PO48. It is an 8 in light fastness, medium staining, non-granulating, and transparent. I actually had the thought when I was painting this one and the next one coming up here, especially the Quinacridone Red Gold, they do look just a bit like medical grade iodine, so the colors are definitely very rich and deep. So this Quinacridone Red Gold is just PO48, is an 8 in light fastness, medium staining, non-granulating, and transparent. This one on the bottom right is Castile Orange. It's a unique color made of PR102 and PY43. Again, an 8 in light fastness, medium staining, non-granulating, and semi-transparent. This one, according to a Gallo's website, is an orange-red ochre from sunburnt Castile in the heart of Spain. And I ended up missing a few recordings of these swatches, so I'll go ahead and explain them in order here. The first one on the left is the Ercolano Red. It is made of PR102 and PR101. It's an 8 in light fastness, medium staining, non-granulating, and semi-transparent. Next up, we have the classic burnt sienna, which is made only of PBR7, is an 8 in light fastness, medium staining, non-granulating, and semi-transparent. The third one in the row is Sartorio Red. It is only made of PR102. Similarly to the last few colors, it's an 8 in light fastness, medium staining, non-granulating, and semi-transparent. The next color gets a bit more interesting in Venetian Red. It is PR102 as well, an 8 in light fastness, staining, non-granulating, and semi-opaque. A lot of these reds would be really beautiful on their own or would work great in mixes to make some neutral colors. The really beautiful, almost maroon color that I just painted on the left-hand side of the page is the Hematite. It is PR102, an 8 in light fastness, staining, granulating, and opaque. Even deeper into the wine-like colors, we have Morlon, and I am so sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. It is PR101, an 8 in light fastness, staining, granulating, and opaque. Here you can see me using the Quinacridone chestnut. It is a very vibrant color made of PR206. It's an 8 in light fastness, medium staining, non-granulating, and semi-transparent. This is Burnt Umber Cypress and officially leads us into our browns. This one is PBR8. It's an 8 in light fastness, medium staining, granulating, and semi-transparent. We have Burnt Umber Brownish on the left. It is also made of PBR8, is an 8 in light fastness, medium staining, non-granulating, and semi-transparent. Moving from PBR8 to PBR7, here we have our Burnt Umber Dark. It's an 8 in light fastness, medium staining, non-granulating, and semi-opaque. A Gallo's version of sepia contains PBK9 with a mix of PBR7. It's an 8 in light fastness, staining, non-granulating, and semi-opaque. Indigo is one of my favorite colors in A Gallo's line. They collected over 30 plant species to collect the flowers and stalks in order to make the indigo pigment seen here. It is a 7 on that blue wool light fastness scale, medium staining, non-granulating, and semi-transparent. This version of Payne's Gray is made of PB15-1, PBK7, and PV19. It's an 8 in light fastness, staining, non-granulating, and semi-opaque. This might be one of my favorite Payne's Grays. It is super, super deep, but can be diluted out to the most beautiful blues. A Gallo's version of Roman Black Earth is PBK11. It's an 8 in light fastness, medium staining, granulating, and semi-opaque. Next up, we see Ivory Black made of PBK9. An 8 in light fastness, medium staining, non-granulating, and semi-opaque. Alright guys, we're getting close to the end here. This next color is a little bit interesting. It is Slate Gray and it's made of PBK19. It's an 8 in light fastness, non-staining, non-granulating, and semi-transparent. And if you're wondering why it doesn't look like I'm painting with anything, this is the titanium white. It is PW6, an 8 in light fastness, medium staining, non-granulating, and opaque. This color, Antique Gold, is the last color on the sample swatch card. It is a metallic pigment mixed with PY43. It's an 8 in light fastness, medium staining, non-granulating, and semi-opaque. Like I said in the last video, Gallo was kind enough to send a sample of their green gold. Unfortunately, it doesn't have any of the pigment information on it, but I really did end up liking this color. It is definitely one of the more vibrant green golds that I've tried. I wanted to go ahead and summarize my thoughts for you guys about Gallo, so I made a pros and cons list. First off, Gallo watercolors are unique and well curated. From Buckthorn green to their unique indigo, this range of colors probably has something to spice up your existing palette, or to build a new one altogether. Also, a vast majority of colors are highly light fast. This company makes high quality art materials that you will be using for years to come. The way that my paints came packaged and presented speaks to the company's attention to detail. I also really loved purchasing from Gallo because in exchange for a premium product, you're also supporting Alina and her small team of watercolorists. Lastly, it may seem like a small detail to some, but lots of handmade watercolor does not include pigment information, so I was glad to see that Gallo provided that to us. I certainly don't have too many cons other than how expensive these watercolors can be, especially if you're living anywhere outside of Italy. Shipping and handling can add to your purchase price, and these watercolors can take a while to arrive at your door. It is worth mentioning that many of these watercolors are comprised of multiple pigments. However, that's a trade-off for these being very safe and non-toxic. Speaking of which, that should probably be in the pros list also. I'd apologize for that, but I think it definitely speaks to the advantages of these paints. Anyways, overall, I think that if you're a serious watercolor artist who has the financial means to try these, I would give it a go with a few pans or a small set. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Thank you guys so much for joining me. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I would love to have you on my watercolor journey. It helps the channel out so much and would truly mean the world to me. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.